The darkness of space held many secrets, but none as terrible as the thing floating in the void reaches. It had been there for 50,000 years, waiting in silence. A massive structure, cold and dead, drifting through the empty black between the stars. No one knew it existed until the survey ship found it by accident. Daewon stood in the observation room, staring at the screen. His eyes were tired from too many hours of work, but he could not look away. The structure on the screen was enormous. It stretched for kilometers in every direction, a dark mass of metal and stone that should not exist. The scan said it was older than any civilization in the galaxy, older than the Council itself. "It's beautiful," Daewon whispered. Hana looked up from her datapad. She was his colleague, the one who kept the expedition running while everyone else got lost in their research. "It's dangerous," she said. "Look at those readings. The metal shouldn't exist. The age doesn't make sense." "Nothing about this makes sense." Daewon smiled slightly. Hana always saw the problems first. That was why they worked well together. He saw possibilities. She saw reality. "That's what makes it interesting," he said. Captain Yuna entered the room, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. She had gray in her hair and scars on her hands from 30 years of exploring dangerous places. "We're going inside," she announced. "The Council wants a full survey. Daewon, you're with the first team. Those symbols on the hull need translating." Daewon felt his heart beat faster. Symbols. Language. This was why he had spent 15 years studying dead alien languages. This was why he had memorized grammar rules from civilizations that turned to dust before humans learned to walk upright. "When do we leave?" he asked. 1 hour, Yuna said.
"And Daewon?"
"Be careful. Those symbols might be warnings." The expedition team gathered in the shuttle bay. Besides Daewon, Hana, and Yuna, there was Tae-sung, the security chief. He was not human. His species, the Velk, had hard shells and many eyes that could see in different directions at once. He carried weapons that hummed with energy. "Stay close," he said to everyone. "We don't know what's inside." The shuttle left the main ship and flew toward the structure. As they got closer, Daewon could see the symbols carved into the hull. They covered every surface, flowing in patterns that made his head hurt if he looked too long. They were beautiful and wrong at the same time. "Can you read them?" Yuna asked. Daewon pressed his face close to the window. "Not yet, but I recognize the structure. It's similar to proto-linguistic forms I've studied. The curves, the repetition. It's a language. I'm sure of it." "What does it say?" Hana asked. "I don't know yet." "Give me time." The shuttle found an opening in the hull, a massive doorway that had been closed for millennia. Tae-sung used a device to force it open. The door moved slowly, grinding metal on metal, and cold air rushed out. The air had been trapped inside for 50,000 years. They entered carefully. Their lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that stretched forever. The walls were covered in more symbols, glowing faintly now as if responding to their presence. Daewon touched one symbol gently. It felt warm. "They're reacting to us," he said, excitement in his voice. "The symbols. They're warming up." "That's not good," Tae-sung said, his hand on his weapon. But Daewon was already walking deeper into the structure, following the symbols. They led him through corridors and chambers, each one larger than the last. Hana followed, calling his name, telling him to slow down. But he could not slow down. The symbols were calling to him. He could almost understand them. In a central chamber, they found the main wall. It was covered floor to ceiling with symbols, thousands of them, all flowing together in complex patterns. Daewon stood before it, his breath catching in his throat. "This is it," he whispered. "This is a message." "What kind of message?" Yuna asked. Daewon pulled out his equipment and began taking images. His hands shook with excitement. "I need to study this. Days, maybe weeks. But I think it's a warning. See this symbol? It repeats every few lines. In proto-linguistic theory, repetition indicates importance, danger, fear." "Then we should leave," Hana said. "If it's a warning, we're not supposed to be here." But Daewon was not listening. He was already lost in the work, comparing symbols, finding patterns, building grammar rules in his mind. This was the greatest discovery of his life. He would not walk away now. For 3 days, Daewon barely slept. He worked in the chamber, studying the symbols, filling notebooks with observations. Hana brought him food that he forgot to eat. Yuna checked on him every few hours, growing more worried each time. The symbols were glowing brighter now, responding to Daewon's presence. On the 4th day, he had a breakthrough. It's not just one language, he said, his voice rough from lack of sleep. It's a key language, a root from which others grew. If I can understand this, I can understand the structure of communication itself. Daewon, you need to rest, Hana said. She put her hand on his shoulder. You look terrible, he pulled away. I'm close. I can feel it. Just a few more hours. But it was not a few more hours. It was another full day. And then finally he understood enough. The grammar was strange. Nothing like human language or any alien language he knew. But he could see the patterns now. He could speak it. I'm going to test my pronunciation, he announced. What? Hana grabbed his arm. Daewon, no. We don't know what this language does. It's just words, he said. I need to hear how they sound. Tae-sung moved forward, his weapon ready. I don't think this is wise. But Daewon was already speaking. The words felt strange in his mouth, like they did not belong to any human tongue. They were harsh and soft at the same time, with sounds that seemed to come from his throat and his mind together. He spoke one phrase, then another, reading from the wall. The chamber responded immediately. The symbols blazed with light bright enough to blind. The walls shook. Deep in the structure, something rumbled like a giant waking from sleep. The floor beneath their feet began to vibrate. What did you do? Yuna shouted over the noise. Daewon stared at the glowing symbols, fear replacing his excitement. I don't know. I spoke the words. The rumbling grew louder. Down the corridors, lights were turning on in sequence, one after another, stretching into the distance. The entire structure was waking up. Systems that had been dead for 50,000 years suddenly had power. The air grew warmer. Somewhere far away, massive machinery began to move. We need to leave, Tae-sung said. Now. They ran back through the corridors, but the structure was changing. Doors were opening that had been closed before. New passages appeared. The symbols on the walls were moving now, flowing like water, rearranging themselves into new patterns. When they reached the shuttle, they looked back at the structure. It was fully lit now, glowing in the darkness of space like a small sun, and deep within it something massive was moving. They could see shapes through the metal, enormous forms that had been sleeping. On the shuttle ride back to the main ship, no one spoke. Taewon sat with his head in his hands, realizing what he had done. He had woken something that was meant to stay asleep. The warnings on the wall had not been about danger outside the structure. They had been warnings to keep everyone away from what was inside. What was this place? Hana asked quietly. Daewon looked up, his face pale. I don't think it was a tomb, he said. I think it was a prison, and I just spoke the language that opens it. Behind them, through the shuttle window, they watched as more lights activated throughout the massive structure. Something was waking after 50,000 years of sleep, and it had heard Daewon speak its language. It knew there was someone out there who could communicate with it. The structure's lights pulsed once like a heartbeat. Then again, and again, whatever was inside was alive. The emergency meeting on the main ship lasted 6 hours. Daewon sat at the table answering questions about what he had done. His hands would not stop shaking. Every person in the room looked at him with fear or anger or both. Captain Yuna showed the recordings to everyone. The symbols lighting up, the structure waking, the massive shapes moving inside. We sent the data to the Galactic Council, she said. They're analyzing it now. But I need to know from you, Daewon. What did you say? What were those words? Daewon closed his eyes, trying to remember. I spoke 2 phrases. The first meant something like recognition or acknowledgement. The second was harder to translate. Maybe opening or beginning. But the grammar was strange. The words changed meaning based on how they connected to each other. You opened something, Tae-sung said. His voice was not accusing, just stating fact. The question is what? Before Daewon could answer, the communication system activated. A face appeared on the screen. A woman with sharp eyes and gray hair tied back. She wore the uniform of a council representative. This is Counselor Mirai speaking for the Galactic Council. We have analyzed your data. The situation is worse than we thought. Everyone in the room went quiet. Mirai continued, her voice tight. The structure you discovered matches descriptions from our oldest archives. Fragments of warnings left by civilizations that existed before the Council. They spoke of something called the Keepers, a species that tried to conquer the galaxy 50,000 years ago. They were stopped, but the records don't say how. Only that they were locked away. Locked away where? Yuna asked. Mirai looked directly at the camera. In structures like the one you're standing next to, the archives call them prison ships, and your translator just spoke the warden's language. The words hit Daiwan like a physical blow. Prison ships. Warden's language. He had not discovered something wonderful. He had opened a door that should have stayed closed forever. What were the keepers? Hana asked. We don't know much, Mirai said. But what we know is terrible. They did not conquer through war. They conquered through unity. They absorbed other species into themselves, making everyone think the same thoughts, feel the same feelings. Individual minds stopped existing. Everything became part of one collective consciousness. Daiwan felt sick, and I woke them up. We don't know if you woke them fully, Mirai said. But you started something. High Arbiter Kresh is bringing a military fleet. They'll be there in 3 days. Until then, do not go back inside that structure. Do not speak that language again. And do not let anyone else learn it. The screen went dark. For a moment, no one moved. Then Hana turned to Daiwan. You couldn't have known, she said softly. I should have been more careful, Daiwan said. The warnings were right there on the walls. I just wanted to understand so badly that I didn't think about what might happen. That night, Daiwan could not sleep. He lay in his quarters staring at the ceiling, and something strange was happening. The language he had spoken kept running through his mind. The sounds, the grammar, the structure, but it was clearer now than when he had first translated it. As if someone was teaching him while he lay there in the dark, he sat up, breathing hard. This was not normal. Languages did not teach themselves, but when he closed his eyes, he could see the symbols from the wall, glowing in his memory, and he understood more of them now. Phrases he could not translate before suddenly made sense. No, he whispered. This isn't right. He got up and went to the observation room. Through the window, he could see the structure floating in space. It was still lit, still pulsing with that strange heartbeat rhythm. And as he watched, something changed. Sections of the structure began to open like flower petals. Inside he could see chambers, and in those chambers were pods. Thousands of pods. Daiwan grabbed the communication device. Captain Yuna, you need to see this. Within minutes, the crew gathered in the observation room. They watched as more sections of the structure opened, revealing layer after layer of the pods. Most were dark and empty, but some were lit, and in the lit ones they could see shapes, beings inside, preserved somehow for 50,000 years. Are they alive? Hana whispered. Tae-sung adjusted the scanner. Some are. I'm reading life signs from approximately 300 pods. Faint, but there. The keepers, Yuna said. They've been sleeping all this time. Daewon watched the pods and felt something pull at his mind. A voice that was not a voice. A feeling that he should go back to the structure. That he should speak more words. That he should complete what he had started. I can hear them, he said. Everyone turned to look at him. What do you mean you can hear them? Hana asked, not with my ears. In my head. They're calling to me. They want me to come back. Daewon pressed his hands against his temples. The language. It's still in my mind, and it's growing. I understand more now than I did before. It's like it's teaching itself to me. Yuna immediately called the ship's medical officer. Get him to the medical bay, now. But Daewon shook his head. It won't help. This isn't a sickness. The language is rewriting how I think. I can feel it. Over the next 2 days, Daewon's condition grew worse. He would wake up speaking phrases in the ancient language without meaning to. He started seeing memories that were not his own. Alien worlds he had never visited, civilizations rising and falling, and always, the call to return to the structure. The medical officer ran every test possible. His brain activity is changing, she reported to Yuna. New neural pathways are forming. The language is affecting him on a biological level. On the 3rd day, the military fleet arrived. Massive ships, hundreds of them, led by High Arbiter Kresh. He was from the Vrin species, reptilian and powerful, with scales that gleamed like metal. His face appeared on every screen in the ship. I have reviewed the situation, Kresh said. The council has made a decision. This structure is too dangerous to study. We will destroy it. There are people on my ship who were inside, Yuna protested. We need time to understand what's happening. Time is what we don't have, Kresh said. Every hour, more of those pods are activating. Whatever is inside is waking up. We must act now. But before the fleet could fire, something happened. The structure moved. It had been floating in place for 50,000 years, but now it suddenly rotated, pointing itself toward the fleet. And from deep within it, lights began to glow brighter. Defensive positions, Kresh ordered. Daewon stumbled onto the bridge, Hana supporting him. His eyes looked strange, unfocused. "Don't fire," he said. "They're not attacking. They're waiting." "Waiting for what?" Yuna demanded. "For me." Daewon's voice sounded different, hollow. "They need me to complete the summoning." I spoke 2 phrases. There are 5 more. If I speak all 7, the prison opens completely. "The Keeper fleet returns." "Fleet?" Kresh's voice came through the speakers. "What fleet?" Daewon laughed, and it was not his laugh. "The structure isn't the fleet. It's the key. The fleet is locked in dimensional space. 1,000,000 ships. Billions of minds, all connected. All waiting. I can see them now. They showed me." Hana gripped his shoulders. "Daewon, you have to fight this. Whatever is in your head, it's not you." "I know," he whispered, and for a moment he sounded like himself again. "Hana, I'm sorry. I tried to stop it. But the language, once you speak it, it doesn't let go. It wants to be spoken. It needs to be spoken." One of the pods on the structure opened. A being emerged, floating out into space without a suit. It should have died instantly in the vacuum, but it did not die. It moved toward the main ship with impossible grace. Taesung raised his weapon, but Yuna stopped him. "Wait, it's not attacking." The being reached the ship's hull and simply passed through it like the metal was not there. Alarms went off throughout the ship. "Intruder on deck 7, a voice announced. "Intruder on deck 6. Deck 5, it was coming to the bridge. The doors opened. The being walked in. It was humanoid, but wrong. Its limbs were too long. Its face seemed to shift when not looked at directly, and its eyes held no light. It looked at each person in the room, then focused on Daewon. It spoke in the ancient language. Daewon understood every word. "Speaker of the old tongue," it said. "You have called us from our sleep. Now you must complete the summoning. Speak the fleet into being. Speak unity into the galaxy. Speak the end of loneliness." Daewon felt his lips moving, forming words he did not want to say. The 3rd phrase was coming. He tried to stop it, tried to bite his tongue, but the language was too strong. It wanted to be spoken. "Help me," he gasped, looking at Hana, but it was too late. The 3rd phrase emerged from his mouth, each syllable like a nail in his own coffin. The words rang through the bridge, and space itself seemed to tear in response. A rift opened near the structure, a wound in reality, and through it something vast began to emerge, a ship. But calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a rock. It was enormous, crystalline, existing in more dimensions than eyes could properly see. It hurt to look at directly. "One of the Keeper vessels," the being said. "The first of many. Continue speaking, human. Set us free." Daewon collapsed on the bridge floor, blood running from his nose. His body shook as if electricity was passing through it. Hana dropped to her knees beside him, cradling his head. "Get the medical officer," she shouted. "Now!" The being that had come from the pod stood watching. It did not move to help or hurt. It simply waited, patient as stone. Through the windows, more of the crystalline ships were beginning to phase into reality. 12 now hung in space, beautiful and terrible, making everyone who looked at them feel small and afraid. High Arbiter Kresh's voice came through the speakers, tight with controlled panic. "All ships target the crystalline vessels." "Fire on my mark." "No!" Daewon gasped from the floor. "Your weapons won't work. They're not fully here. They're between dimensions. You'll just waste ammunition." "Then what do we do?" Yuna demanded. Daewon tried to sit up but could not. His eyes were bloodshot, and when he spoke, blood bubbled at the corners of his mouth. "I don't know. I can't think clearly anymore. There are too many thoughts in my head that aren't mine. I see things I never saw. I remember things that happened 50,000 years ago. I'm becoming less me with every hour." The medical officer arrived and immediately began scanning Daewon. Her face went pale as she read the results. "Captain, his brain is being rewritten. New structures are forming. Old ones are being replaced. If this continues, the person we knew as Daewon will stop existing." "How long does he have?" Hana asked, her voice breaking. "Days. Maybe less." The being spoke again in the ancient language. Daewon translated without wanting to. The words just came. "It says I'm being prepared. The language is teaching me so I can speak the remaining phrases correctly. If I make a mistake, the dimensional locks won't open properly. The fleet could be trapped between spaces forever. So they're making sure I understand perfectly. Can you resist? Taesung asked. Can you refuse to speak? Daewon laughed bitterly. I thought I could. But the language controls me now. When it wants to be spoken, it will be spoken. My mouth moves by itself. My tongue forms sounds I don't choose. I'm just a tool. Yuna stood straight, making a decision. Then we need to find a way to reverse what's been done. Counselor Mirai, are you listening? Mirai's face appeared on the screen again. I'm here, Captain. And I've been consulting our best researchers. There might be something. The structure itself holds clues. Those who imprisoned the keepers must have left fail-safes. We can't go back in there, Taesung said. It's too dangerous. It's more dangerous to do nothing, Mirai replied. We're sending a specialist, Dr. Soman, our best neuroscientist. She studies consciousness and how language affects the brain. If anyone can help Daewon, it's her. She'll be there in 18 hours. We might not have 18 hours, Hana said. She was still holding Daewon and he had started shaking again. He's getting worse. The being moved closer. It looked down at Daewon with eyes that held no emotion. The fourth phrase comes soon, it said. The speaker cannot resist much longer. The words build pressure like water behind a dam. Eventually the dam breaks. Stay away from him, Hana said, putting herself between the being and Daewon. The being tilted its head. You love him. How strange. In unity there is no love because there is no separate self to love another. There is only the collective, only the whole. You will understand soon. I will never understand that, Hana said fiercely. That night they moved Daewon to a sealed room in the medical bay. Hana refused to leave, so they gave her a chair beside his bed. He drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes speaking in human language, sometimes in the ancient tongue. When he spoke the ancient language, the walls of the room would grow warm, responding to the words. During a moment of clarity, he grabbed Hana's hand. You should leave the ship, he said. When the fleet comes fully through, they'll take everyone. Make them all part of the collective. You should run while you can. I'm not leaving you, Hana said simply. I'm already gone, Daewon whispered. The person you knew is disappearing. I can feel it. Like water draining from a glass. Soon there'll be nothing left but the language and the mission to speak it. Then I'll stay until the last drop, Hana said. She squeezed his hand. You're still in there. You're still you, and I won't let you forget that. Outside the ship, the crystalline vessels were broadcasting. The message went out in thousands of languages to every world in range. The words were different, but the meaning was always the same. Join us, become part of something greater. End your loneliness. End your suffering. In unity, there is peace. Some colonies listened. Fringe worlds, tired of council politics and abandoned by their governments, heard the message and wondered if it might be better. If being alone was so hard, maybe being together was the answer. The broadcasts were designed to sound appealing, to make the collective seem like salvation rather than slavery. Admiral Kyung-ho, commander of humanity's defensive fleet, sent an urgent message to all human worlds. Do not listen to the broadcasts. This is not unity. This is the death of self. Every human has the right to be an individual, even if it's hard, even if it's lonely. That's what makes us human. The Vryn military, led by High Arbiter Kresh, positioned their ships in a defensive formation around the structure. They could not destroy the crystalline vessels, but they could try to contain them. Kresh knew it was hopeless if more ships came through, but he had to try. The alternative was unthinkable. Dr. Soman arrived ahead of schedule, pushing her ship's engines to dangerous speeds. She was a small woman with quick eyes and hands that never stopped moving. She went directly to Daewon's room and began her examination. Fascinating, she said, reading the brain scans. Terrifying, but fascinating. The language is acting like a virus, but not biological. It's mimetic. It infects the mind itself. Each word he spoke created new neural pathways. Those pathways are now growing on their own, restructuring his entire consciousness. Can you stop it? Yuna asked. I don't know. Maybe. But I need to understand the language better. I need to see the structure where he found it. Hana stood up. I'll take you. I was there. I know the way. Yuna hesitated. It's dangerous. The being that came from the pod is still on the ship. There might be more inside the structure. I don't care, Hana said. If there's a chance to save him, I'll take it. They assembled a team. Hana, Dr. Soman, Taesung, and 2 security officers. They took a shuttle back to the structure, passing through the defensive perimeter of Vryn ships. The structure welcomed them, doors opening without being asked, lights illuminating their path. "It knows we're here," Tae-sung said, his weapons ready. "Of course it does," Somin said. She was examining the symbols on the walls with her equipment. "This entire structure is designed around the language. Every surface is a transmitter. Every symbol is part of a larger message. It's all connected." They made their way to the central chamber where Daewon had first spoken the words. The wall of symbols glowed brighter as they entered, as if excited to have visitors. Somin approached carefully, scanning everything. "These aren't just warnings," she said. "Look at the pattern. Some symbols are instructions. Some are history. And some—" she touched the wall gently. "Some are locks. Linguistic locks. The keepers were imprisoned using their own language against them. Whoever did this understood how the language worked." Hana looked around the chamber. "So there's a way to close what Daewon opened?" "Theoretically, yes. If there's a word for opening, there should be a word for closing. For every phrase of summoning, there should be a phrase of dismissal, but—" Somin's face fell. "It would need to be spoken by someone who understands both sides. Someone who knows the language well enough to use it against itself." "Daewon," Hana said. "He's the only one." "Yes. But speaking the counter phrases would require him to fight against the very thing that's controlling him. The language wants to be completed. It wants the fleet released, making it speak its own undoing." Somin shook her head. "The contradiction might destroy his mind completely." Tae-sung pointed to a section of wall that looked different from the rest. "What's that?" They moved closer. Hidden behind layers of symbols was a door, sealed for millennia. Somin studied it. This wasn't part of the original design. Someone added this later. "Whoever imprisoned the keepers left this. Can we open it?" Hana asked. "I think so. The lock is linguistic, but simpler. It's not in the ancient language. It's meant to be opened by anyone who comes looking for answers." Somin began working on the symbols around the door. After an hour, the door opened with a sound like a sigh. Inside was a small chamber, and in the center of the chamber was a device. It looked like a crystal, glowing faintly with inner light. Somin approached it carefully. When she touched it, images appeared in the air around them. Holographic recordings, ancient and damaged but still functioning. They showed beings they did not recognize, species that no longer existed, working together, building the prison, preparing the trap for the keepers. One image showed the linguistic structure they had used. The counter phrases, the words that could seal the fleet away again, but the image also showed the cost. The speaker of those words would need to hold two opposing ideas in their mind simultaneously. The desire to summon and the desire to banish. The belief in unity and the belief in individuality. The shuttle raced back to the main ship. Hana sat in the back, her hands gripping the crystal device so hard her knuckles turned white. Dr. Somin was already reviewing the holographic data they had retrieved, her eyes moving rapidly across streams of information on her tablet. "How long do we have?" Hana asked. Somin did not look up. "I don't know. The pressure builds differently for each phrase. The fourth one has been building for hours. It could break through any moment." When they docked, alarms were already blaring. They ran through the corridors following the sound of Daewon's screams. The medical bay was in chaos. Equipment sparked and malfunctioned. The walls glowed with symbols that had not been there before, appearing as if burned into the metal by invisible fire. Daewon was strapped to the bed, fighting against the restraints. His eyes rolled back in his head. Blood ran from his ears. The being stood in the corner, watching with patient interest, waiting for the inevitable. "Daewon." Hana rushed to his side. "Hold on, we found something. We found a way to stop this," but Daewon could not hear her. He was somewhere else, lost in a storm of language and memory. His lips moved constantly, forming syllables in a language that should not exist. The air around him grew thick and heavy, as if reality itself was bending. Dr. Somin set up her equipment quickly. "I need to show him the counterphrases. If I can get them into his mind while he's in this state, maybe he can fight back." "Will it work?" Captain Yuna asked. "I don't know, but it's all we have." Somin placed the crystal device near Daewon's head and activated it. The holographic images appeared again, showing the ancient counterphrases, the words that could seal the dimensional rifts and send the Keeper fleet back into prison. The symbols hung in the air, glowing and rotating. Daewon's eyes focused suddenly. He saw the symbols. For a moment, understanding crossed his face. The dispersion chant, he gasped. That's what they called it. The words that unmake what was made. But I can't. The language won't let me. It's too strong. You have to try, Hana said. She took his hand. Fight it. You're still in there. I know you are. Daewon looked at her, really looked at her, and Hana saw tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry for all of this. Then the fourth phrase broke through. It ripped out of him like a living thing, each syllable carrying weight and power. The room shook. The crystal device cracked. And in space another rift opened. More of the crystalline ships began emerging. Not dozens now. Hundreds. The being in the corner made a sound that might have been satisfaction. 3 more phrases, it said. 3 more and the fleet will be complete. Millions of ships. Billions of unified minds. The galaxy will finally know true peace. Daewon collapsed back onto the bed, unconscious. His breathing was shallow and irregular. The medical equipment showed his brain activity spiking in patterns that should not be possible. Soman studied the readings. He's fragmenting. His consciousness is splitting under the pressure. Part of him wants to speak the phrases. Part of him is fighting. The contradiction is killing him faster than I thought. Admiral Kyung-ho's face appeared on the communication screen. Behind him, Hana could see the bridge of his flagship, crew members moving with controlled urgency. The situation is deteriorating, he said. The Keeper vessels are approaching populated systems. They're broadcasting constantly. 3 colonies have already stopped responding to our calls. I think they're considering surrender. Can you stop the ships? Yuna asked. We're trying. Our weapons have no effect when they're partially phased. But we discovered something. When we ram them with enough force, they solidify for a few seconds. In that time, they're vulnerable. We've destroyed 2 vessels this way. He paused. We lost 4 ships doing it. 2 more are heavily damaged. High Arbiter Kresh appeared on another screen. This is not sustainable. For every Keeper ship we destroy, we lose multiple vessels. And more keep coming through the rifts. We need a better solution. Soman stepped forward. I have one. But it requires Daewon. She explained what they had found. The counterphrases. The dispersion chant that could seal the rifts and send the Keeper fleet back into dimensional space. But also the cost. The speaker would need to hold contradictions in their mind that would tear their consciousness apart. He's already dying, Soman said. The language is destroying him. If he's going to die anyway, let him die accomplishing something. Let him die as himself, making his own choice. Kyung-ho looked troubled. We're asking him to sacrifice himself. No, Hana said quietly. We're giving him the option. There's a difference. Counselor Mirai joined the communication. The council is an emergency session. If the Keeper fleet reaches the core worlds, we'll have no choice but to evacuate entire systems. Trillions of lives are at risk. If this human can stop it, she looked directly at Hana. Can he do it? Can he speak these counterphrases? I don't know, Hana admitted. But I think he'll try. An older man appeared on the screen, someone Hana had not seen before. He had white hair and kind eyes behind simple glasses. This is Hyunwoo, Mirai said. Daewon's teacher from years ago. We brought him from Earth. He's the only other person who might understand what Daewon is experiencing. Hyunwoo studied Daewon through the camera. He was my best student, the old man said softly. Always curious, always pushing boundaries. I taught him to love language. I never imagined it would lead to this. Can you help him? Yuna asked. Perhaps. Language is not just words. It's thought itself. If Daewon can remember why he became a linguist in the first place, if he can remember what made him human before the ancient language took hold, he might find the strength to resist. Hyunwoo paused. I need to be there in person. Let me come to your ship. The next 6 hours were tense. Hyunwoo arrived, bringing with him old notebooks and recordings from Daewon's student days. He sat beside the bed where Daewon lay unconscious and began to speak. He told stories about their time together, reminded Daewon of why languages mattered, not because they were tools of power, but because they were bridges between minds, ways for individuals to connect while remaining themselves. You loved the complexity, Hyunwoo said, the way each language saw the world differently. Korean, English, Vrin, all the alien tongues you studied. Each one was a unique perspective. You never wanted to erase those differences. You wanted to celebrate them. Daewon's eyes moved under his closed eyelids as if dreaming. The Keepers don't understand that, Hyunwoo continued. They think difference is weakness. But you know better. You've always known. Unity through erasure is not unity at all. It's just loneliness wearing a mask. Dr. Somin was working with the crystal device trying to repair the damage from the fourth phrase. If we can get the counter phrases into his mind clearly, if we can show him the exact linguistic structure, he might be able to speak them. But the contradiction will be immense. He'll need to simultaneously believe in the summoning and the dismissing, want the fleet to come and want it to stay locked away. It's psychologically impossible. Humans do impossible things, Hana said. She had not left Day One's side in hours. We survive in space when our bodies weren't made for it. We communicate with species that think in ways completely different from us. We hold contradictions all the time. We want to be safe and we want adventure. We want connection and we want independence. Contradiction is what makes us human. The being in the corner spoke. The fifth phrase comes soon. The speaker cannot resist. The pressure builds too great. Soon his mouth will open and the words will emerge and nothing will stop it. We'll see about that, Hana said. Day One's eyes opened suddenly. He looked around the room, seeing everyone gathered there. Hyunwoo, Hana, Somin, Yuna, Taesung. How many days? He asked, his voice rough. 3 days since you spoke the fourth phrase, Somin said. I don't have much time left, Day One said. I can feel the fifth phrase building. It's like a storm in my mind, but I can also feel something else now. The counter phrases. I saw them in my dreams. They're beautiful in a terrible way. Can you speak them? Hyunwoo asked gently. Daewon tried to sit up. Hana helped him. I think so, but not yet. I need to speak the remaining summoning phrases first. All of them. Bring the fleet completely through. What? Yuna stepped forward. That's exactly what we're trying to prevent. I know. But the counter phrases only work on a complete summoning. The linguistic structure requires it. I have to finish calling them before I can send them back. Daewon looked at each person in turn, and I have to do it fast. Speak all 3 remaining phrases, then immediately speak the dispersion chant, before the language realizes what I'm doing. Somin nodded slowly. It could work. The ancient language is powerful, but it's also mechanical. It follows rules. If you complete the summoning first, the dismissal becomes possible. It will kill you, Hana said. It was not a question. Yes, Daewon agreed. The contradiction will tear my mind apart. But I'll be dead anyway if I don't try. At least this way, my death means something. Hana wanted to argue, wanted to find another way, but she could see in Daewon's eyes that he had already made his choice. Promise me something, she said. What? Stay yourself until the end. Don't let the language take you before you finish. Come back to us, even if just for a moment. Daewon smiled sadly. I promise, outside the ship. They moved Daewon to the observation deck. He wanted to see space, see the stars one last time before he did what needed to be done. Hana stayed beside him, holding his hand. Hyunwoo stood on his other side, ready to guide him through the linguistic maze ahead. Dr. Somin had set up her equipment in a circle around them. The crystal device projected the counter phrases into the air, rotating slowly, showing every angle of the impossible language that could unmake reality. Remember, she said to Daewon, you need to speak all 3 summoning phrases in sequence. Don't pause between them. The momentum will help. Then immediately, without taking a breath, begin the dispersion chant. How long is the chant? Daewon asked. 7 words. But each word has multiple syllables. And each syllable needs to be perfect. One mistake and you'll tear space-time instead of sealing it. Daewon nodded. He looked out at the Keeper fleet. Hundreds of crystalline ships now, each one containing millions of absorbed consciousnesses. They're beautiful, he said quietly. In their own terrible way. They really believe they're saving everyone. That's the worst part. They think loneliness is the enemy, so they destroy the self to defeat it. But you know better, Hana said. I do. Being alone is hard. Being an individual is painful sometimes, but it's also what makes life worth living. The choice. The difference. The possibility of connection between separate souls, not forced unity of erased minds. Captain Yuna's voice came through the speakers. All crew prepare for final operation. Admiral Kyung-ho and High Arbiter Kresh have positioned their fleets. When the summoning completes, they'll engage immediately, buying us time, but it won't be much. The full Keeper fleet number's in the millions. We can't hold them long. Daewon took a deep breath. Then I better not fail. The being that had come from the pod appeared at the doorway. It had been following Day-Wan everywhere, waiting for this moment. Finally, it said, the speaker is ready. Complete the summoning. Bring our brothers and sisters home. Bring unity to the galaxy. Day-Wan looked at the being. You really can't understand, can you? Why anyone would choose to be separate, to be alone. Loneliness is suffering, the being said. We end suffering. No, Day-Wan replied. You end existence. There's a difference. He turned to face the window, looking out at the stars. I'm ready. Hyunwoo put a hand on his shoulder. Remember your training. Language is thought. Thought is choice. Even when speaking words given to you, you can choose what you mean by them. Speak the summoning phrases with your mouth, but not with your heart. Save your heart for the dispersion chant, Day-Wan nodded. He felt the fifth phrase building in his mind. Enormous pressure that had been growing for days. He stopped fighting it. Let it come. Opened his mouth and spoke. The words were like thunder. They echoed not just in the air, but in space itself, in dimensions beyond human perception. The observation deck shook. The windows cracked. And in space, the dimensional rifts exploded with light. Ships came through. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. Crystalline vessels of impossible beauty. Each one a work of art. Each one a prison for billions of minds. They emerged in waves, filling the space between stars, their presence warping light itself. Day-Wan did not stop. He immediately spoke the sixth phrase, his voice growing stronger, the ancient language flowing through him like electricity through wire. More rifts opened. More ships came. The full armada was returning after 50,000 years of imprisonment. The military fleets engaged immediately. Human ships and Vryn vessels moved as one, firing everything they had. Some keeper ships solidified under the assault and shattered. But for every one destroyed, 100 more emerged. The battle was hopeless and everyone knew it. They were just buying time. Admiral Kyung-ho's voice came through the communication, strained but steady. We can't hold them. Whatever you're doing, do it fast. Day-Wan spoke the seventh phrase, his final summoning. The words ripped out of him, and with them came blood and pain. His nose bled freely. His ears bled. His eyes bled. The contradiction of what he was about to do was already tearing him apart. The dimensional space cracked open completely. The final keeper ships emerged, millions of them, an armada that had once conquered half the galaxy. They spread across the stars like a swarm, beautiful and terrible and inevitable. The being in the doorway raised its arms in triumph. It is done. The fleet is whole. Unity returns to the galaxy. But Day-Wan was already speaking again. The first word of the dispersion chant emerged from his bleeding mouth, and it sounded like the universe unmaking itself. The keeper ship stopped. They felt it. A word they had not heard in 50,000 years. A word they had hoped was forgotten. The being turned, horror on its shifting face. No, that language is forbidden. Those words were buried. You cannot know them. I know them, Day-Wan said. Blood ran down his chin. His hands shook. But his voice was clear. He spoke the second word of the chant. The keeper ships began to reverse direction, moving back toward the rifts. But they fought it, using their own power to resist. Day-Wan needed to speak faster, overwhelm them before they could adapt. He spoke the third word, then the fourth. His mind was splitting. He could feel it tearing like paper. Half of him wanted to complete the summoning, to bring unity to the galaxy. The other half wanted to end the keepers forever, to preserve individual consciousness at all costs. The contradiction was impossible to hold, but he held it anyway. Hana squeezed his hand tighter. Stay with us. You're doing it. Keep going. Hyunwoo whispered guidance, keeping him focused on the linguistic structure, not letting his mind wander into the pain. The fifth word of the dispersion chant came out. Space itself shuddered. The dimensional rifts began to seal. Keeper ships were pulled back through them, fighting and screaming in their unified voice, a billion minds crying out as one. The being tried to move toward Day-Wan, to stop him. But Tae-sung was faster, physically blocking its path with his armored body. No, he's finishing this. Day-Wan spoke the sixth word. Reality wavered. For a moment, the observation deck existed in multiple dimensions at once. Hana saw versions of herself, paths not taken, lives not lived. Then it snapped back to normal. The Keeper fleet was almost gone, pulled back into dimensional space. Only a few ships remained, and they were fading fast. The being in the doorway was fading too, becoming translucent, its connection to this reality severing. You doom them, it said, its voice growing distant. You doom them all to loneliness, to separation, to suffering. No, Day One said. I give them choice. That's all anyone can ask for. He spoke the seventh and final word of the dispersion chant, the word that sealed everything, the word that ended the summoning and locked the dimensional doors forever. The sound was beyond hearing. It was felt in the bones, in the soul. The remaining keeper ships vanished. The rifts sealed with a sound like breaking glass. The being on the observation deck disappeared completely, pulled back into the prison with its kind. Day One stood for a moment, swaying. Then he collapsed. Hana caught him before he hit the floor. Day One, stay awake. You did it. It's done. His eyes opened, but they were not focused. Blood covered his face. When he tried to speak, no words came. The ancient language had taken everything. His ability to form language at all was gone, burned out by the contradiction he had held in his mind. Dr. Somin scanned him immediately. He's alive, barely. The neural damage is extensive, but he's alive. Outside the window, space was empty of keeper ships. The crystalline armada was gone, sealed away in dimensional space, locked by words that could not be spoken again because the only person who knew them had been destroyed by speaking them. Admiral Kyung-ho's face appeared on the screen. The keeper fleet is gone. How did you do it? Day One spoke them away, Hana said. He gave everything to save us. The next days were quiet. The galaxy began to recover. The colonies that had gone silent returned to normal, confused about what had happened. The keeper broadcasts had stopped, and without that influence, people remembered why they valued their individuality. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Counselor Murray stood before them and spoke. A human did this. A human's curiosity opened the prison, and a human sacrifice sealed it again. We owe them our existence, High Arbiter Kresh agreed. The humans have proven themselves. They are not just translators or bridge species. They are protectors. This debt can never be repaid. But Day One knew nothing of politics. He lay in the medical bay recovering slowly. The doctors said he would survive, but the person who woke up would not be the person who had fallen asleep. The ancient language had taken too much. 6 months later, Day One worked in a small library on Earth. It was quiet work, helping people find books, organizing shelves. He could not speak well anymore. Simple words came hard. Complex sentences were impossible. The greatest translator in human history could barely communicate in his own language, but he was alive. And he was himself. And that was enough. Hana visited every week. They would sit in the library's reading room, watching people come and go. Sometimes she would read to him. Sometimes they would just sit in silence, comfortable in each other's presence. One day a child came to Day One struggling with a book. I can't read this word, the child said, pointing. Day One looked at it. The word was beautiful. He tried to say it but could not form all.